What is up, everybody? Today we are checking out the new Darkness Blood Necromancer build. So with Season 1 coming out right now, we're looking at some new builds. We've been doing some grinding, we've been looking at some stuff to kind of switch up your gameplay a little bit. You know, maybe you're tired of the Necromancer bone build and you want to do something else. So this build focuses on high AoE damage and high damage over time abilities. It's basically like your Blood Surge build with a few different tweaks. So we're going to go over gear, we're going to go over the talent tree, and we're going to just do a Stronghold just to see how it holds up to bosses and mobs. So the first thing we're going to look at is all of our gear and affixes. So I'm not super big normally on designing a build around a certain affix. Like if you don't get the affix, it's not the end of the world. Basically what we're looking for is anything that has a corpse ability, anything that has a blood ability or darkness ability enhancers. The one key affix here is going to be this right here. So for your Necromancer build, this is the one that is pretty imperative, especially on bosses, that you're going to need. So if you're going to do Uber Lilith, if you're going to do any clearing dungeons in the Snap, you're going to want this affix. So Bone Storm and Blood Wave are also darkness skills, deal shadow damage and gain additional effects. So this build actually uses Blood Wave, which I know is not the norm, but we're experimenting here. So you're going to want this ability. Blood Wave desecrates the ground and travels over it, dealing 33,000 shadow damage over 4 seconds. That is huge. That will wipe out half of a boss's life in one blast. So you definitely want this affix somewhere on your weapon, preferably, or your necklace. But everything else is anything Blood Mist related, Blood Surge, Corpse ability, Corpse Tendril, Shadow Blight, Corpse. So you get the gist. That's the one affix you really want, is the one that turns your Blood Wave into a darkness ability. Everything else kind of optional depending on what you find. You can play around with stuff. We just want anything that includes Corpse Explosion, Blood Surge, and any shadow damage. So the build we're actually running here is going to be Reap. We're just going to put 1 point in Reap. There's 4 points in there that are more valuable instead of maxing out 5v5. If you feel like pausing the video at any point to look over this stuff, feel free to do so. This is just my build that we're doing today. Again, feel free to play around with it however you like. So we got Reap, we've got 5 points into Blood Surge, plus 2 from itemization. We went Enhanced Blood Surge and Supernatural Blood Surge. You could honestly do Paranormal Blood Surge. It's not, to me, it's nickels and dimes. If you would rather swap that into that, that's okay. With Reap, you definitely want the Acolyte's Reap to form a corpse, because we are still running a heavy corpse build as well, between Corpse Tendrils, Corpse Explosion, and the blood abilities. So Reap right there, Blood Surge right there. Next, down here, we're going to put 3 points into Hued Flesh. So your damage has up to a 12% chance to create a corpse. Again, anything to generate corpses, especially since you're losing out on the Skeletal Reapers at this stage in the game, you're not going to have a lot of corpses to deal with. Hued Flesh helps with that. Coming down here, we're going to take 2 corpse skills. So Blood Mist and Corpse Explosion. Blood Mist first, you want to max that out 5v5. Take the Enhance, and then you're going to do Blood Mist leaves 1 behind a corpse. So you want that for more corpse generation. Corpse Explosion, 5v5, obviously. I have 3 from item contribution. And then we're actually going to go into Corpse Explosion becomes a darkness skill, leaving behind even more damage. So again, high dot build, high damage output. So you want to leave that dot there. You'll see when that stacks, it's huge when that stacks up on bosses. You're gonna move over past curses, and then here's a tree where you kind of have a little bit more wiggle room. I'll show you what I've done as far as the improvements go. Corpse Tendrils definitely max out 5v5. Again, I have +3 from item and contribution, enhanced, and then plagued for vulnerability. I know it's season 1, I know they nerfed vulnerability. It is still a big thing. You still want vulnerable targets as much as possible. Don't skimp out on this, don't look past it, don't think it's trash. Vulnerability is still king when it comes to taking out targets. After that, I have put 1 point into gruesome mending, and that's really only to climb the tree so I can put 3 points into colossated blood. So when you're healthy, you deal 18% extra blood damage, and then tides of blood, so it gives you 15% overpower and double when you're healthy. So staying healthy is important. It's a little difficult with this build, and we'll get into that in a bit. Then down here, Reaper's Pursuit, this 1 put into that, and then 3 into Gloom. So when you damage enemies with darkness skills, you take it 6% additional from shadow damage. Again, very high focus on shadow damage with this build. Next is also Terror, so 3 and 3 into Terror. If you don't want to do Gloom, you could do Crippling Darkness to make Terror more active with the uptime on stuns, but I really don't see the improvement in that. I would rather take 3 out of 3 Gloom. Finally, come down here. Your ultimate's going to be Blood Wave, like we talked about, because of that affix on your weapon. Enhanced, obviously. And then down here, you're going to want Shadow Blight. So Shadow Blight to turn even more stuff into shadow damage. So shadow damage, shadow damage, shadow damage, corpse, shadow damage, blood damage, blood damage, shadow damage. You see where we're going with this? So that's the build that we're going to be rocking. Again, you can play around with it a little bit, but really with the itemization, it's really the only big thing I've noticed with this build so far is that it's really important to stay alive. You don't have any big recovery tools outside of Blood Mist to run around. You could switch out Blood Mist with Golem, Iron Golem, but I really don't see it being worth it. So let's just run this Stronghold and see what we can actually do with it. So now I know that Blood Necro builds in the past have been super AoE focused and not very single target focused, but I promise you with the Corpse Explosion dots and the Blood Wave dots, it's going to be easy peasy to basically do a lot of damage output real quick. So AoE, don't worry about it. You still got Blood Surge, you still got Corpse Explosion, you still got Tendrils. Don't worry about AoE damage. It can be clearing dungeons in a matter of minutes. For the single target builds, all you have to do is really kite your bosses through the Blood Wave and survive until then. So you'll see how to do it here. We're gonna Corpse Tendril, and you're just gonna kind of lead them through your dots. And you just have to fight within the actual Shadow Blight. So we've got Dame Marine here, and this is when I would pop Blood Mist and just lead them through all that shadow damage, lead them through Corpse Tendril, and blow it up with Blood Wave. And they just evaporate like that. Their entire health bar is gone. Easy peasy. That's all you have to do is kite around with Blood Mist, let them sit in your dots, and when you get pulled, like if you pull all 3 bosses, if you pull 1 major boss, if you pull Uber Lilith, just make sure to pop Blood Mist right when you activate Blood Wave and just have them camp out in that dot damage. Alright, it's Overlord time. Wait for them to kind of kite it around. Alright, we'll get Corpse Tendrils out, Vulnerability, and Blood Wave. And pop the Blood Surge, and he's vulnerable, and we're going to finish with Blood Mist, Corpse Explosioning around, and that is that. Boom. So one more thing to note with affixes is it probably is worth it to have this affix as well imprinted on something. Blood Mist triggers Corpse Explosion surrounding corpses. Again, it's not as big as it was in the beta. I realized that it's only a corpse every 2 seconds, I believe it is now. But because your corpse are leaving a dot behind, it's important to have Blood Mist triggering Corpse Explosion. So you're invulnerable and you're just leaving shadow damage behind for others. So that's the build, guys. That's the Stronghold. Tell me what you guys think. If there's stuff you would tweak with it, if there's stuff you liked, if this is a garbage build, let me know in the comments below, and tell me what you want to see next. Thanks all for watching. Catch you on the flip.